Redding is a beautiful place. We have national parks in 3 different directions, 2 world-class lakes. This is a sportsman's paradise, but it's also full of wonderful people. We have business leaders, community leaders, faith-based leaders, all of them working towards a singular goal, and that's to make this a great place to live. I wanted to showcase these people, give their perception of the place that they call home. This is allredding.
Hey, Travis.
Hi, Leah.
We've already been chatting a little to get started. I'm excited to have you here today. I've gotten to know your family through a few different veins, which is kind of the whole point,
Yes.
right? We all interact around here. And I think the thing that made me want to ask you to come on today was starting to see some videos that you've been doing about Quarter Farms. And you can tell me a little more. Quarter Farms is a 4th generation family farm?
Correct, yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. What does that entail? What generation are you? What's coming next?
Yeah, so I'm 4th generation. A real quick summary. My great-grandfather basically bootlegged whiskey down to the Bay Area during Prohibition and settled in a little community that has a very special spot in my heart where some of those videos were taken, where a railroad was going to be constructed and a lumber mill was going to be constructed. And he moved in and set up a restaurant and a bar. And
he saw potential.
Saw potential, right? Saw opportunity, right? Which is kind of what allredding's all about, is talking about the potential of this great community and this great part of the state that we live in.
Yeah, absolutely.
My grandfather was a horseman and a cattleman, and
so we went from bootlegging to horses.
Bootlegging to horses and cows. And then my father was not a horseman or a cattleman, and he got into traditional production agriculture.
Okay.
And then I'm 4th generation and have really blessed to be handed the torch.
Yeah, and so I've been watching some of your videos, and I know there was the cattle ranching. Is there any more, or now it seems like it's more like the farming, or are we still doing a little bit of each?
Yeah, so there's no animals at this point. My grandfather's generation was the end of the horse and the cattle part of the process, and I'm really blessed to have been part of that. Because when I was, between 6 and 13 years old, he was my hero. I wanted to walk like him, talk like him, and spit like him. And one of the stories I told on one of my videos was that summertime, there was 2 options. You could go to pit 1 and learn to swim, or I could be horseback with my grandfather, and I'm proud to say I don't know how to swim.
Yeah. Okay. Is pit 1 where I drop in my inner tubes and float down to
Well, there used to actually be a community pool there. It's all been covered up and buried, yes. But we used to have this huge community pool right there right next to where you drop into the tubes.
No way.
Yeah. It was a humongous community pool and big lawns and literally Big Valley community, Fall River, Bernie, Big Valley. Everybody would come there,
spot right there
and hang out. And there'd be hundreds of people down there all summer long.
Okay.
Recreating and hanging out.
That's like my favorite place in the summer to go. At all, hands down. I did not know that. But you don't know how to swim because you chose to be with Grandpa.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah,
all right. What did that look like all day, spending a day with Grandpa?
Yeah. So I think the thing that stands out to me the most as I'm trying to live up to my current word of the year, which is be present, that with all of the great tools and toys that we have in our life, I really struggle with being present in conversations. And one of the things I really respected about him was even though he worked hard, whether that was, feeding cattle out of hay barns in the middle of the wintertime, or whether it was summertime where we were on horseback riding through either our Forest Service range or our BLM range, or going to town for supplies. But when he would go to town for supplies, he always made time to stop and visit with people. And my way of visiting with people now is a text, preferably, because it's so fast and efficient. But talk about lacking substance and connectivity. Yikes. That's a whole other, that's a podcast in of itself.
That's a whole thing. That's definitely a thing. Yeah.
And so I so much appreciated that. And another one of the long-term families that live up in the Fall River Valley are the Stoltenbergs. And I was sitting with Bill and Betty Stoltenberg and told them the other day I didn't realize that his dad's name wasn't the Miller, because my grandfather would say, we're going to go visit the Miller. And I just literally thought that was his name.
Right.
And I told Bill that the other day, and he just laughed and said, you know what? He goes, your grandpa always stopped and made time. And my grandmother did the same exact thing.
Yeah.
They managed to find this balance between being really crazy busy and always
getting more done
time,
than we do.
And getting more done than we do.
Yeah.
But still making time to connect with people and literally stop and listen to them and see
Look
them.
them in the eyes.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's so funny. My husband grew up in Bernie, and when we'll drive home from that area, he'll say, "Oh, we used to stop at this house over there and visit so and so, and we used to stop over there." And one of the things I've come to love about the Bernie, Intermountain, Fall, those communities is everybody actually knows each other more than I think sometimes we do in a city like Redding. And they all stop and they do know. We were out with Megan and Brian one day and they hear a snowmobile and they're like, "That's so-and-so snowmobile coming up." And I'm like, you can hear their snowmobile and know what neighbor that is? And it's a beautiful thing. And I hope that community still has that a little more than we do. And there's something really valuable in that.
It's super special because when you go to a sporting event, it's extremely common to have 3 generations of family members sitting in the stands. In fact, it's surprising if it's not the case, right?
Yeah.
And that, like I said, to me, that's so cool. I know that when my kids were growing up, they didn't necessarily think that was so cool because I told myself, if you run our one and only stop sign, we don't have stop lights, but if you run our one and only stop sign, I'd know before they got to town. Just because everybody does know everybody and everybody's looking out for everybody. And it really is a community of people or a village raising a community of kids.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's better for the kids, I think.
By far.
Yeah. Kids think they can get away with all kinds of things now, right? Because no one knows who they are.
Yeah.
Up there, everybody knows who you are. So 4th generation farmer. Do you think there's going to be a 5th generation quarter farms? Is there a plan for that?
It's a question that's been asked of me a lot. I'm not sure if that's a subtle way of addressing my age.
No.
Or
no. It's more like I think we like seeing a legacy go on.
Or see legacies go on.
Yeah, I think we like seeing legacies go on.
And so definitely from the romantic standpoint, I hope that that's true. But from the standpoint of now that my kids are 22 and 26 years old, I really want them to become the best version of them. When they were 8, 10 years old, I wanted nothing more than them to, that was the sole focus was go out and compete, right? Do your best, figure out how to, thinking about something Josh Barker said on your podcast, which was go all in, right?
Yeah.
Just go for it. Don't be afraid of failure. Now, if they chose to be part of the 5th generation legacy, I would be honored and love to run with them. But by the same token, I really don't want them to feel the pressure because I think a lot of times in small family businesses, there's almost this implied pressure that you're supposed to come back out of honor for your parents.
Okay.
And I'm blessed that we have amazing relationships with our kids, and they definitely would feel very responsible if they thought that was like the only way to properly honor us would be to come back and run that business. I want them to come back for the right reasons. So my oldest is very interested in agriculture, but similar to me is hyper allergic to almost everything we raise.
That's what I heard.
Yeah. So Jordan, our oldest, I don't know how he was able to lead our swather crew all the way through high school and just deal with it with medications and inhalers and all that type of stuff. Thankfully, our youngest son, Cody, does not have any allergies to the majority of the products we put up. But Jordan is a business owner here in Redding and going on with that legacy concept. So the business that Jordan currently operates here in Redding is kind of right off the end of the public marketplace.
Oh, okay.
And it's called Moonshine Salons. And the whole theory behind Moonshine is that's one of our brands out of respect for our my great grandfather, right?
Okay.
The bootlegger,
We're bringing it
right?
back.
Yeah. So on the Moonshine brand, the Moonshine is a reference to Generation 1.
Okay.
There's a rope on there out of reference to Generation 2, right?
Yep.
And then there's the quarter brand that is a reference in respect to my father's contribution to the legacy. So Jordan has already decided to keep the brand and keep the legacy going with the Moonshine and branching into the salon. The next thing that Jordan wants to do here in Redding, and my bride and Jordan are working on this, but want to do a hydroponic container growing concept where the goal being it'd be to get organic, locally grown foods super close to where they're being consumed, right? So the restaurant would go across the street and pick their greens for the day, so to speak, kind of a concept. And also just give access to a lot of people to have higher quality type foods that can hopefully be scaled into multiple type of communities where most of the time the food sourcing and things has to take place,
Far
out
away.
where there's a lot of real estate. And this is a concept that can produce significant amounts of certain types of foods with a very minimal amount of space. And so that's a project that Jordan and my bride Michelle are working on.
Here locally.
Yeah, and the goal is to we got it like most great businesses. It's not in Jordan's garage, but it's in Jordan's backyard.
Yep.
That we've got a container project to go proof of concept before we take it out to the
Launch
quote
it
unquote
bigger.
street and launch it bigger.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's exciting. Actually, as I was hearing you talking, I was thinking about how, we get our last names, usually Miller, like you were talking about, right? Or the cobbler or the whatever. These old last names used to be your profession and passed down. And so here's Quarter, and it's going to be passed down, but it seems like actually every generation Quarter's gone from bootleggers to animals to farming to like, hey, now we're into a new generation.
Yes.
So the name is still taking on a new thing, but it's keeping the history.
Exactly.
So we're still honoring it.
Yeah. And
That's
my
pretty
son and I
exciting.
own an airplane together, and I said, you can name anything you want to. And he said, Dad, Quarter Farms Aviation sounds good to me.
I love it.
Right. So he currently is very passionate about aviation and passionate about nursing. Currently is the things that he's very involved into. And so
Okay.
whether that works its way back around, but I think the main thing with respect to the legacy is not necessarily what we do. It's what we represent, what we stand for, right? What does that brand, what does that label, what does that stand for you? Our core values in our company and in our family are relationships, community, and quality. And in that order too, right?
And I've seen that
Yes.
about you guys.
Yes.
I've been at some of the dinners or different things, and you always see that Quarter Farms is a sponsor, or that they're there and they're donating, and that they're there and they're giving, and you're out in the community. What that one surprised me because I saw you in Sacramento and you had flown Mr. Daly down, or no,
Cecil.
Cecil down. I just think of him as Megan's dad. I just call him
pretty
dad.
much
I
is,
just call him
right?
dad.
She's famous, so he gets to
yeah,
be.
he gets to be dad. So Cecil, you had flown him down. What got you into aviation and flying?
So when I was in college a while ago, my best male friend and I, Perry Thompson, were both going to Chico State. I went there to study agriculture because that seemed like the logical path. And the longer I stayed there, the more I realized where my true passion lied was in finance and computer science. And so I switched my majors and got a major in finance and a minor in computer science. And if I could have afforded to stayed, I probably would have stayed and learned a whole bunch more stuff, because part of how I realized farming was going to be a great choice for me is that I love learning and I love being challenged. And farming brings that in spades.
I would imagine.
And so he and I started flying. We were taking lessons out in Orland together. And I'm 3 years older than Perry, so I graduated 3 years ahead of him. And I wasn't done. And I got back up to Fall River, and ironically, there was a guy up there with an airplane, a guy named Randy King. And strangely enough, their family runs part of Little Valley,
Okay.
the Down syndrome community up there, right, called the Mountain Jewel Ranch, which is a whole nother
I've heard about
amazing
this.
concept.
Does that still exist
It
now?
still exists, and everybody should go see what's going on up there, because it's
Okay,
the
now-
coolest
okay.
thing since sliced bread.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
And I'm all over the board. Sorry about that.
No,
but-
that's
but
okay.
yeah.
That actually,
Yeah.
I'm glad
But
to hear
anyway,
about that. Yeah.
Randy was like, I heard you were, I go, you know what? I've got this weird loyalty thing. And I said, I owe it to that guy in Orland to go finish with him. Well, somehow I blinked and 35 years went by.
Yeah, it happens.
And my son gets into aviation and says, Dad, I don't know if I want to do fixed wing or helicopter, but I'm really passionate about flying in aviation. So we got him a fixed wing lesson and a helicopter lesson. And he goes, I really want to fly fixed wing.
Okay.
So he gets his license here at IASCO at Redding.
Yep. Okay.
And when he got done, because he's not a student, he wasn't able to rent a plane anymore, because they only rent planes to their students,
you're a
is my
student.
understanding.
Okay.
And so I'm like, well, you know what? Cody wants to pursue becoming ideally like a corporate pilot and fly for,
Oh, like a bigger airline.
no,
Or no?
like for
Oh.
a person I want to mention because of generosity and community, Steve Roberts, the owner
Okay.
of Crown Motors,
Okay.
right?
Yeah.
Right? They have
So he-
they
yeah,
have
like
a
my
private
cousin
aircraft
has,
and,
like, a
and somebody
owner.
flies them
Yes,
around.
he's
So
just
that's more
paid
like
to stay
corporate
on-
flying,
yes,
right? As opposed to airlines, you're going to be wherever
Yeah.
the airline goes. And
I have a
Cody
cousin
doesn't
like
live
that.
in-
He's
yeah,
just
yeah.
paid yearly to be sitting
Yeah.
there and ready to go whenever they want him to fly him somewhere.
Yes.
Same kind of thing? Okay.
And
Yes.
since I brought up Steve, the reason I brought him up is
Yeah.
because the reason that we drive Fords and the reason we work with Crown Motors is not because I'm a Ford, Chevy, Dodge guy.
you're
I'm
a
big
Crown
into
Motors guy.
investing into the people that understand about investing back into our community.
Okay.
And so when I met Steve and some of his great team, and they were saying, what do we need to do here in your business? I said, I do business with the companies that turn around and invest whatever's appropriate back into the youth, into our communities. And Steve said, where? And I said, well, Bulldog Sports Foundation, Farm Education Foundation, the Junior Livestock Auction. He shows up on year one is like the top 3 buyer at the Junior Livestock Auction. It's been so
Really?
ever since. And I'm like going, we don't even, all we do is just call and say, here's the car we want to order now, because of that type of relationship. And that's what we really try to focus on when we talk about relationships, right? They're not transactional, they're purposeful,
Yes.
right? They're meaningful. And so anyway, I had to get that plug in for Steve because
No,
I'm so grateful
I love
for
that
people
entire
that think
story.
that way. And I'm also trying to create that connection between Eastern Shasta County and Redding and how we are truly all intertwined.
Yes,
right?
we are.
So anyway, back to flying.
Yeah. I love it.
My wife and I have a discussion. I'm saying I think we're going to have to buy a plane for Cody so he can build ours to pursue his profession. And my wife, I'm so blessed to have been married to for 31 years. And more importantly, that my best friend now than ever, not a roommate, because you definitely see that happen after long periods of time. That got my phone out and I have my bucket list on my phone. And number 3 was become a pilot.
Yep.
And she goes, you know what, if you're going to buy a plane for Cody, this would be a really good time to get that done.
That's the kind of wife.
And then on top of that, my number 1 foreman, his family was crop dusters, and he's always had a passion for flying.
Okay.
And he's so dedicated to our company. His name's Chance Duvall. Very blessed to have him in our company. My number 1 responsibility with him is to protect him from himself, because he's so committed to us. And I've offered to pay to send him down here to Redding to get a pilot's license. And he's like, no, I can't leave the farm. I can't leave the business. And I go, what if I bring a plane to Fall River and an instructor to Fall River?
I probably made his day.
Chance is a pilot now, too. So it was a really cool thing, right? That Cody became a pilot, which then opened the door for me to get one of my major bucket lists off to become a pilot.
Yep.
And then I was in turn able to offer an opportunity to somebody that's very special in our company and our life to give him an opportunity to become a pilot. And it leads to something that I think I spent the first 20 plus years of my career feeling like as I'm looking at lights, like my responsibility is to try to get to the spotlight. And now I realize my job's to be the spotlight.
On others.
Right? Isn't it so much more rewarding and so much more fun?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it is. What does that feel like to, I think it's a big responsibility and opportunity to get to give that to someone. You know, and I bet you guys have more employees than just that. So, I mean, if I'm hearing this one story, I think one of the best employers I ever had was Carl Hild. He owned Hild Collision Center. And he would always say to me, do you see every man working here? I'm responsible for their families.
That's right.
It's a big responsibility, but it's also a big opportunity. And not many would have said, oh, I'm going to help him be a pilot too. Yes. Right? Yeah. That's really cool.
Yeah. We have a peak season, about 65 people working in our company. And thankfully, the large majority of them are 25 to 30-year employees. I've coached a large majority of their children in sports and been part of their mentorship in 4-H and FFA. And you're right. It feels so much more like an opportunity than responsibility. And maybe it's because I treat it like a responsibility. I just get to really enjoy on it being an opportunity. But it is truly a blessing to have those long-term relationships with people in your company. And like I said, once again, the example I use with Chance is really true of all of our senior folks, that my responsibility is to go out and protect them from themselves, because they're so dedicated and so loyal and so committed to our cause, that I'm like, my job is to get them to slow down and to take more time off. And it's a cool responsibility to have.
I think you're probably leading by example, because as I'm listening to you, it would be very easy to farm all day, be tired at night, and go sit down and just live your life. But then I hear you saying, I help here, I help there. Hey, when you told the gentleman from Crown Motors, hey, well, what you should give to is investing in the youth, that's because there was a passion there of yours. We don't tell someone, hey, you should sew in if we don't see it, right? So you're leading by seeing that and then telling them, hey, you got to find the things you're passionate about and go sew into those too. So I see a lot of leading by example, I would say, from listening to you. We talked a little bit before we started filming about like the challenges. So there's a lot of good things going on. And I think you and I talked about, we hear a lot of grumbling and this and that about the challenges of agriculture, the challenges of the future of that. And I loved that you want to talk about the possibilities instead. So what would you say to someone who's like, what are the challenges? And, you know, if it's not going to be your kids that take over, like in the next, you know, how, is it still a good thing for people to get into ag? Like what with the challenges that are there?
Well, that's a really deep and complicated question.
Yeah.
And I'm going to try and appropriately hit on all those little rocks there without going too far in any one particular
Yeah, I
subject.
layered it on you. Sorry.
Yeah. Agricultural lifestyle is amazing. Like I said, I spent most of my preteen life on a horse with my grandfather, and his peer. I mean, my peers were 2 generations older than me, and the amount of wisdom and the amount of stuff that gets handed down to you from being in environments like that is a blessing. I don't know how else to describe it. And then 2, to be able to, even though, you know, in general, in agriculture, you work by most people's standards, ridiculous hours. You know, 3,000 hour work years are
Normal.
That's not excessive. That's just normal. And I'm not saying that to brag or to complain. It is what it is, right?
Yeah.
But I can also tell you, I don't really feel like I've worked very many days in my life. And what I have that to compare to is when Michelle and I were first dating, trying to decide if we wanted to take our relationship to another level. We both loved snow skiing. So one winter, when our company was really small and we could actually leave, we went to Park City, Utah, and got jobs. And I had a job running a snowcat from 4 p.m. to midnight. I had a season pass. I skied 125 days consecutively.
You do a lot of things.
And
Okay.
Leah, it was the one and only job I've ever had in my life. I looked at my watch.
Yeah.
I stopped for lunch. I stopped for breaks. I got in trouble when I stayed out and finished a job and came back to the base 15 minutes late. The whole thing was so foreign to me. And it was, you want to talk about a cake job. This is like 1992. I'm getting paid $30 an hour.
Wow.
Driving a snowcat and skiing 100 plus days consecutive. I mean,
Yeah.
it doesn't get a lot.
Yeah. Should have been fun.
It should have been fun. And literally, it made me just realize, though, when I compared it to what I do, I was like, wow, I outside of, you know, obligations, I don't have a watch that I live my life by. With that stop or go time. And don't get me wrong, nowadays with regulation stuff, we have to be very conscious of breaks and lunches and compliance type issues. So I do have to make sure that my HR people are on top of that. But literally from my own personal standpoint, whether it's 6 a.m., 6 p.m., 3 a.m., 3 p.m. is kind of irrelevant. And I've had very few days in my life that were work.
Where's the what makes it so rewarding then? Because there's some kind of reward then.
Yeah, so I believe that when you're pursuing your dreams and you're passionate about something, I think that's the difference. Because it was my dream to ski 100 plus days in a row.
Yeah. But
it wasn't my dream to have to be at base a certain time and stop for lunch. But the whole thing was just so foreign to me.
Yeah.
And it wasn't truly, I didn't have a dream for that.
I was going to say, sometimes the dreams we think we have aren't quite what we thought.
Yeah. So it sounded cool,
but
it wasn't really,
in theory.
You know, when I talk about dreams and visions, when I was 12-ish years old, I was constantly teased that I made the statement one time and it stuck with me that I was born to be a farmer. And so I got all the, born to be a farmer, hee haw, you know, blah, blah, blah. And literally throughout high school, everything that I was wanting to learn to study was on point for that mission. When I was in college, I knew exactly what I wanted to do.
Yeah.
My senior paper was how I was going to restructure the farm and grow it.
Mm-hmm.
And there's a funny story if we get there about what I did at the senior paper when I came back. But
Uh-oh.
the other thing I think that really defines, things that are like goals and what makes life to live versus life a process is that literally it was all encompassing to me.
Mm-hmm.
And it was constantly growing and evolving the whole time. And all I was trying to do was figure out how to sleep enough because I was so excited that I couldn't stay asleep.
You're one of those farmers who, like Brian Daly, I'm like, does he sleep? He's up. He's going. He loves it.
Yes. That's,
He'd rather be on his tractor than anywhere on the
perfect
planet.
example.
Yeah.
Because when you are home sleeping, you're just constantly, and I don't think this is anything that farmers have, exclusivity on.
No.
I think people that found their passions and go do whatever they do are so driven, right? To just continue to evolve what you can't make your brain shut off and what it's continuing to create.
You don't want to hold still. I mean, you want to keep going.
Yeah, it's
and
too
doing the
exciting to
next
go,
thing.
I want to see how this works out.
Yeah.
And especially with farming because every year the slate's clean and it's all brand new again and you plant stuff and stuff grows and stuff goes wrong and this works and you got humbled here and
You were describing it earlier and I thought of mortgage because in mortgage, I used to have a processor and his job before that was he was a Navy SEAL diver. And he was like, mortgage is the next best thing because every single loan is different. Everything has a problem. I have to rescue everything. And I'm like, sounds like we should hate our job, but actually I never get bored.
Yeah.
Because every single client, every single home, every single thing is a new problem to solve. Yeah. So when you were describing it earlier, I'm like, oh, I wouldn't get bored being a farmer.
No.
Like there's
if you had passion for it, and like I said, you guys, your end product is somebody gets a home.
Right.
I mean, what a beautiful thing.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yes.
It is true. I hope the 24-year-old closed on his first house today, and he's like,
wow.
I'm moving in tonight. And so, it's the best thing.
Yeah.
It's the best thing. But you were saying earlier about the weather and all these things you can't control, and you were lighting something up in me because it's true. I love like knowing what I can control, and then what can I help in the midst of all the things I can't. Right. And I think, from even our first topic of like redding and our neighbors into like your farming, and it's what we can control is the narrative that we tell. We can control our attitude about the things around us. And even when you were saying like, hey, when we talk about this, I don't want to talk about the challenges of farming. I want to talk about the things that are awesome about it. And that's what we can bring to any situation, whether we can control things or not. We can control how we feel about it and what we speak about it, which actually changes what we do about it, right?
There's a direct correlation there, right? And as frustrated as I can get when you look at a business financial statement, because it's really easy to get hung up on your financials, because that is part of the reality of what we do. But when I do step back and realize that my brother and his wife live on one end of the property, my parents live in the middle of the property, my wife and I live on another corner of the property, and what was so special about that is 20 years ago, I couldn't live on the property because I literally couldn't shut it off. I literally couldn't stay away. And I'd just sleep in my truck for a couple hours and just go back at it. And that wasn't healthy for my relationship with my family, right? With my wife and my kids. And so we moved about 10 miles up on Day Road.
So that you would take a break.
Just so I could disconnect because I wasn't mature enough to flick the switch myself, right? So I needed
That's hard.
I need a little buffer. Well, after about 20 years of that, we're like, man, what's the story I focused on? All the time I spent with my grandparents and how influential this was in my life. Well, being that 10 miles away from my parents, they were seeing them at birthday parties and sporting events, but they weren't connecting with them on a day-to-day basis the way they were. And my wife and I one day simply said, you know what, we need to figure out how to get closer to because Michelle's parents live here in Redding.
Okay.
Who are awesome people too.
They have to be because your wife's awesome. I do
exactly.
like her very much.
Yeah. Matter of fact, there was a song back in like the 70s, and it was meant to be like the description of a perfect woman, right? And I think it went something like 34, 26.
Whatever those numbers are. We're not going to say that.
Whatever those numbers, right? But there was like three numbers, right?
Yeah.
Well, my three numbers are 31, 61, 61.
Okay.
Which is Michelle and I's anniversary.
Okay.
31 years. And both of our sets of parents are both on 61 years.
That's amazing.
That's my numbers. right?
Yeah.
Once again, I'm completely off base.
No,
Not even
no,
talking about what
this
you want
is
to talk
good stuff.
about.
No, this
But
is good stuff.
Back to cool things about farming. So the great things about farming is that
Yeah.
the potential and the opportunities are there. And it's an unbelievable experience and opportunity to be outside, working with your hands, working with most of my customers are multi-generational relationships. A lot of the people in the supply chain are.
Who are your customers?
So we, depending on the commodity, so if it's garlic, we manage the certified seed program for the West Coast for ConAgra. So we handle all of their nursery stock that ultimately makes its way through the channels to where it's going to be fresh market garlic.
Okay.
But we're the stop from the greenhouse in Hanford.
I'm not wrong. That's a lot of garlic.
Everything comes to us.
Yeah.
There's about 8 million pounds of garlic a year.
Oh my gosh.
And it started with a 100-pound sack.
Wow.
That's another little side story that I could tell how I started that process. It's also on one of my
one of your
one of my-
videos. So
one of my
everybody's got to
videos.
watch your videos. Yeah.
On the hay side, we literally export or sell to exporters that sell all over the world.
Okay.
But the majority of our hay customer base is in Central and Southern California. That's where the largest bases of horse populations are at.
Okay.
So some are direct to consumer, some are vertical integration through retail chains, and then some are through brokerage type relationships. And really what we've specialized in is people that are looking for long-term relationships, because hay is a commodity, and commodities are quite simple. It's all about supply and demand. It's not rocket science. And so when supplies are tight, there's all kinds of people want to be your friend. And then when supplies are long, those transactional relationships or circumstantial or seasonal type relationships, those folks are
How do you weed them out?
price driven. So when I was building my business, I didn't weed out anybody. I took any and all
Oh,
takers.
no, that's like any business.
Right?
We'll do anything.
It was like, you name
My doors
it,
are open.
I'm there, right? Yes.
Yes.
Treat me like cred. I'll be right back tomorrow.
Pretty
And,
much. If you'll pay me.
But as in your business starts to mature,
Yes.
right? Then the weeding out process began, and it's not very complicated. You know, people that do what they say and say what they do.
Yeah.
Sounds simple. Maybe it's not super common in today's business world,
Less and
right?
less.
That's less and less. But literally, like I said, 90+% of these folks that I deal with are personal friends now,
Yes.
because we spend so much time trying to figure out how do we support each other and help each other be successful and deal with the challenges that we're dealing with. And they spend a lot of time wanting to understand what I deal with. And what
Really?
goes on in agriculture and what are the hard things about farming. It's not just like, hey, because if you think about it, you know, a broker's job is to buy hay as cheap as they can and turn around and sell it for as much as they can. That's the oversimplified version of what a traditional broker responsibility to do.
Right.
And I broker hay as well as, work in the other ends of the supply chain. But my brokers are really, they'll come up and spend days in the valley and spend time with me and seeing what we're dealing with and the challenges
What
we have.
fostered that? Did you foster that?
Well, when you start looking for people that focus on the right things, and once again, it gets back to core values, right? It's how we hire, right? It's how we build relationships. And people that just simply are looking for, hey, give me the best product for the cheapest price, transactional type of a mindset. We just don't culture those relationships. I'm not saying we don't cater to them occasionally when we have excess, but they're not part of our core group.
My clients are the ones that are like, I'm online looking at Rocket. Okay, do you want a relationship
It's the same
and work
thing.
with? Do you want service?
Yes,
do you
Rocket's there. So knock yourself out if that's what you're looking
If
for.
that's then we don't need to do that.
Yeah.
But I think it's interesting that they want to hear your. Because sometimes I have to say, well, I want to have a building so you can walk in and talk to me. I want to have staff that takes good care of you. I want to have, and sometimes people don't want to understand. And you're right. Then it comes a moment of, well, then do I want to work with you?
Yes,
Like, is
exactly.
this the right fit?
Yeah.
And so that's intriguing to me that they would come up and spend the time
Yeah.
to learn that.
And they're calling us
instead
about
of just
weather,
demand.
right? They're like,
Yeah.
hey, I heard it's hot. I heard it's cold.
Are we
I
gonna be
heard you got
okay?
insect pressure. You know,
Yeah.
how's things, and not just calling from the standpoint of, are you going to have my hay available? Because that'd be a very different conversation,
Yeah.
right? The core group of the ones that I work with really are like asking questions like, how are you doing?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
How is this situation? How are you handling this? Because in the hay side of the equation, it's been 4 years of an upside down market, which is basically we're selling product for less than what it costs to produce. And so those folks are very conscious of that. They don't have free money to give away to bridge the gap. The supply-demand curve still ultimately
But they know that you're
But they
losing.
understand what we're dealing with, and they're constantly trying to come up with solutions and concepts and ideas of how to at least minimize
Well,
that
because if they
quote-unquote
can't
pain
figure that out with you, it's not going to be available.
That's
right.
right.
Because you
Yeah.
can't keep growing something that you lose on.
that you're losing on.
Yeah. I know too. And so does that spur, that's another question I wanted to ask you. So garlic, 8 million pounds. I'm still a little blown away. And then hay. And I think you were talking about sweet corn on some, like what else is, are
Yeah,
you
so
guys
we raise
doing?
wild rice. Throughout the years, we've done sweet corn, we've done mini seedless watermelons. Those are all the things that go underneath the Moonshine brand. So any direct-to-consumer type of products like sweet corn and watermelon, those are going to go into the Moonshine brand, which like
Okay.
I've already kind of explained how Jordan's running with
Yeah.
that on a completely
Okay.
different avenue. We've raised carrots, we've raised carrot seed, cantaloupe seed. Trying to think what else. Sugar beets.
Okay.
One of the most valuable experiences I've ever had in my life was with sugar beets. My first experience with precision agriculture, right? So there's field cropping, there's row cropping, and then within row cropping, certain row crops are really hypersensitive. And kind of like with anything, right? I mean, everybody wants the quote unquote six pack, but are you going to do the sit-ups?
Yeah.
Because, right, there's the stairs and the elevator, right? And the elevator's sexy.
It's so sexy.
It's so sexy.
I know. That's actually what I'm thinking as I'm listening to your lifestyle is like how many times you hear at like the body shop, for example, where I worked, we'd hear about these kids paying for, is it Y Tech or whatever? You go down and you do the whole thing to become a tech.
Mhm.
They'd be there for a week and go, this is harder than I thought. Literally have paid for the school and then come, and you think about farming, and that's why I was asking, what are the rewards? Because it is a all the time, every minute kind of thing. And you have to love it. And the reward has to be, I would imagine, like when you do see the crop come up, right? And when you do see the results. And so it would be really hard if you're selling hay that doesn't make money every year. I would imagine that's a little stressful and hard.
Right.
But then the rewarding part is probably when you do something hard, but you make it happen,
Yeah.
right?
Well, you were just talking a minute ago about getting a first-time home buyer a home.
Yeah.
And the next first-time home buyers could be as special, if not more special.
It's true.
It's the very same type of a concept. It's not something I think we have special in agriculture, right? I think that when you're passionate in your business and you're serving on people, right, there's so many great rewards if you're looking for them. To kind of shift gears over to the challenging side of the equation,
Yeah.
the things that have me most concerned right now is not our traditional supply-demand curves and weather challenges, because we've been navigating those for 4 generations, right?
That's fair.
And so to have years when we're losing money and making money, normal, right?
Okay.
And I also have to really remind myself, we just got done talking about my airplane, right? And the thousands of acres of land that I live on.
I was going to
And-
ask you, how big is Quarter Farms?
So we farm 6,000 irrigated acres.
Okay.
And we own 15 to 1,600 of those. We lease the rest of them.
Okay.
And I really need to remind myself of how blessed I am. It's very easy to get obsessed, once again, about your financial statement when things aren't going the way you want it to. But when I do step back every once in a while, which
Yeah.
is not very frequently, and just go, oh, how lucky am I? The things that concern me about the future of agriculture are things that, in my mind, have kind of taken place over the last 5-ish year period,
Okay.
which is a lot of consolidations and mergers in the supply chain. And as much as we dislike competition, as you know, when another farmer comes to the area, I'm just like,
Doubles out.
you're all puffed up.
Instead of
Or when-
rising
when-
tide,
right,
you're
right,
like,
yes,
I don't know if
right,
I want
yeah.
to share.
Yeah.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, what you realize is it makes you better.
Yeah.
You have to up your game. That's the bottom line.
That's true.
That's it. I mean, you have other choices. You can
Right.
you can lay on the nail and like
That's
the old
like-
saying goes,
yeah.
like, what's the dog upset about? He's laying on a nail. How come he doesn't get up? It doesn't hurt bad enough, right? You can sit there and go bowl, right? And like
Yeah.
I said,
Or in my industry, it's like, well, they use that person. Well, why?
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 Yeah. Right?
Yeah.
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 Look in the mirror, right?
Have you
I
been
don't know what
calling
to
them?
say.
Did you
Yeah.
talk to them? They're-
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, like I said, those types of challenges we're used to and normal, but what's changing in the playing field, and I'm trying to network with all of the people that I deal with in agriculture throughout the United States, is trying to see, number one, am I perceiving this change correctly? Just because it's my perception doesn't mean it's accurate. So I'm, number one, asking people, here's what I'm seeing as a new trend that's concerning to me.
You're being curious.
Yeah, and then two, if you do see this trend, how are you preparing to navigate this with because, like with most businesses, most of the stuff that CEOs do you're way out in front of the business. You're 5 and 10 and 15 years ahead of a business, but you have to understand how that chessboard is or your checkers board or whatever you're doing is being rearranged to make sure that the plans and stuff you're doing are appropriate. And in the supply chains, and I'll just be very specific about a few things like fertilizer manufacturing, it's down to like 2 major players. Herbicide manufacturing, 2 or 3 major players. Why is that significant? So last year, to my knowledge, is the first time that there was ever an inverse relationship between the price of corn and the price of nitrogen. So corn is the big dog on the planet with respect to agriculture. Corn, wheat, and soy are the big 3 that, because of the volume and the gross dollars, they're the dog and everything else is kind of the tail of agriculture, right?
Okay.
So typically what has happened in my 40 years of agriculture is that when corn prices are down, then typically corn production is down, and corn then becomes the cheapest source of protein available to, say, like a dairy cow, which then puts downward pressure on like an alfalfa bale. But the reward we always got is that the price of nitrogen would go down, correlating with that due to competition.
Okay.
Last year, and this was told to me by one of my major suppliers, so I feel like it's fairly accurate information. I said, why is nitrogen moving up by 25% this year? I said, agricultural commodities across the board right now are all doing quite poorly as a generalization. And I said, in corn in particular, the main driver is in the tank. And he said, well, they decided to make less UN32, which is a liquid formulation of fertilizer that corn growers like. And he goes, forced them over to urea. And then, therefore, with less material in the market, price goes up. And because there's no competitors are going to step in and go, oh, wow, Leah wants to offer a 9% mortgage, I'm stepping in, right?
Right.
But if there was nobody else offering mortgages,
you'd take a 9%.
You're going to take a 9% mortgage. You want that house. You're going to get in the air,
Yeah.
especially when nutrition and agriculture are not negotiable terms, right?
Right.
In the absence of nutrition, you don't have an agricultural program. So it's something you're going to buy almost regardless of price. And so we're seeing this happening between equipment manufacturers, herbicide manufacturing, fertilizer manufacturing, all the major inputs. There's been this massive consolidation of one option in 5 states, one option in the Western United States, 2 options in the United States, very large scale consolidation.
I could be wrong, but I think I've heard the same thing about, and I could be wrong, about farm equipment.
Yes, very much so.
Okay. Yeah, I think I've heard the same thing to where it's like now you've got this or this, and the prices of the farm equipment is wildly higher and higher, right? So as I'm sitting here listening to you, you said in high school, people, oh, you're going to be a farmer. Man, there's so much more business in farming than the farming.
Yeah.
Like you probably have this drive to get up and work the land every day, but you've got to know how to deal with the equipment, how to deal with the money side, there's so many different things. Yeah, how could you get bored?
Yeah, you can't. And you're right. It's interesting when I spend time talking about people about decisions made on a farming operation like ours on a daily basis. Most people are totally surprised. They're like, we just thought you guys got up and worked
And farmed.
and just farmed.
Yeah.
And somehow farming has never really been thought of. And I'm not saying that every farm operates the way our farm does. Our farm is very tech heavy, very based on information driven, data driven decision making, right? So we've got wireless water monitoring systems that are constantly sending data to a centralized location, telling us when to water, how much to water, where to water. We have soil experts. We have plant pathologists that are constantly looking at plants and diseases and problems. I mean, there's so many specialties that are coming in. My job is simply to surround myself around brilliant people, right? I tell people most of the time, I say, if you really knew me, you wouldn't be that impressed. They look at what I do or what I represent or what I get credit for.
Yeah.
They're like, how do you know and manage all these moving pieces? What I do
maintaining
is
all
I have
those
great people.
relationships and picking those people is takes a talent.
Yeah.
So you can take credit for that.
I
right?
will. I will
Yeah,
definitely take credit
for that.
for realizing that.
Well, it's an important thing. I've found that I've worked at a couple different mortgage companies in the industry, and who you work for and who you work with and your team is probably the number one most important thing to be successful in anything that you do. And it takes some emotional intelligence to figure out who the right people are.
Yes.
Right? So that you can do business the way you want to do it and well.
Yeah.
So that was one of the questions I was going to ask you is like, what do you think the most common misconception is about farmers? And like you laid it out for me, basically. There's a lot more that's going into what you do every day. So being that we're the hub of a North State area where sometimes I think we forget, I hope it's surprising to people that like 8 million pounds of garlic come out of 2 hours away from here. I hope that's surprising. But as the hub, what ways could we be supportive of farmers, in our area?
Well, I don't know if this is specific to farmers, but some of the other folks that I network with in this area and that I have such great admiration and respect for. I'm part of a business organization down here called Vistage.
Okay.
And some of the members in Vistage that really stand out, one, because he's been on your podcast, so Josh Barker's in our group.
Okay.
And listening, because like I said, you can have the same misconception about a realtor as you can about a farmer.
Mm-hmm.
You go, don't you guys just sell stuff?
Houses? Yeah.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
And Josh.
Mm-hmm.
Josh doesn't just sell stuff.
No.
That's not what they're about, right? They are the most organized, planned, strategic.
Mm-hmm.
It's so impressive, right? I literally just like to hang out with him for a week and just literally follow him around and understand his procedures and processes.
He's very disciplined. He's very
incredibly disciplined, right?
Yeah.
Another person in our group is Kimberly Johnson.
Okay.
And so I think about what I do is so
her.
cool, right?
Yeah. Oh, what she's
And then I listen to what she does and what her organization's about. And I go, I have no problems, for starters,
I know.
right?
Yeah.
And I don't have real challenges, right? And so I'm very blessed to have relationships with people like Kimberly and people like Josh or Steve Roberts. Or I'll reference a new friend, and a new friend to me is somebody that's only been a friend for less than 10 years.
Okay.
Because most of my relationships
Much
are from
older.
birth, right?
Yeah.
Todd Franklin.
Oh, I love Todd.
Okay.
Yeah.
And so, quick story of Todd. He was a basketball coach. I was a basketball coach. I was very unsuccessful at beating him, right, when he was at Liberty Christian. Right?
Okay.
And I was convinced, and I've told him this to his face, I was convinced he was cheating because of the different rules that Christian schools have with respect to athletes that public schools don't.
Oh.
Todd was simply playing by the rules, right?
Okay.
And I was angry, number one, because I couldn't beat him, right?
Yeah.
And so my excuse therefore was he must be a cheater, right?
Yeah.
And so after he and I both had stopped, well, he was still coaching at Simpson when we made our first connection. And a fellow coach was telling me his rendition of Todd. And I'm like, this doesn't add up to who I think, I'm pretty sure who I think is this cheater that I can't beat, that I can't stand.
I love it.
Right? And he goes, no, you really need to meet him. And I really trust and respect Kevin Wilkerson, who introduced me. And I told Todd right up bat, I said, man, I've never liked you. I'm a big believer in clear as kind. Right?
Yeah.
It's not an attitude. It's nothing.
Yep.
It's just like, here, like me, love me, hate me, whatever. I just try and be transparent. And I told him, I said, man, I've never really liked you, but I said, my friend Kevin here thinks you're a pretty special dude, and he is a very authentic person. And so fast forwarding, he's one of the kindest, most generous, he inspires me to figure out how to up my game on being community-minded and a servant, right? And taking credit for absolutely nothing. And I don't know how our relationship has grown so rapidly in such a relatively short period of time. That, matter of fact, in April, Michelle and I are going down to Panama.
That's so funny. I've been thinking about doing that.
Yeah, we're going down the 16th of April
Are you?
to hang out with Todd for a week.
Okay.
And His kids have, we've been engaging with his wife and his kids, and
I think there's
and
just
messing
kindred
in the
spirits
park.
sometimes. Sometimes those relationships that are that was me and Megan Daly. Just
Yes.
like, oh, that's
Just-
we're best friends. That's it.
Yeah, but
Yeah.
the funny part about me and Todd was I was pretty sure we were mortal enemies.
He was a bad guy.
Yeah.
What made you realize he wasn't a bad guy? Just talking to him?
Kevin invited me to
know,
meet him at the Foothill
okay,
Gym.
that is why relationship, and
Yes.
you had equity in relationship with somebody else
Yes.
who told you, no, hold on, stop, ask
Yes.
questions. This is a good person.
Yeah.
And we need more of that in our world.
Yes. Yeah. And
Right?
thankfully, I was just willing to listen because I was like, I don't really want to go to Foothill Gym, and I don't really want to sit with a guy that I'm pretty confident I don't like. Right? I'd already made up my mind without hardly any facts. The funny thing, Todd's response is, he's like, yeah, but you won the last time we played together.
Oh, he remembered that instead of
Well,
all the other times.
We're competitors. We're coaches.
Yeah, it's the way it works.
And it's just the way it works. But
Yeah.
I can tell you I'm so blessed to have developed a relationship. And basically the reason I keep telling these stories is because our communities are interconnected.
Correct.
Right?
Yes.
Reading is our hub
Yeah.
for where we're at, right? When we need
Yep.
supplies, we need services, but more than supplies and services, this is my personal hub for connecting with
Yeah.
mentorship and relationships.
Yeah. Yeah. There's not like a whole bunch of business owners up there to connect with and learn from. And so Vistage, can you tell, like, are you allowed to talk more about that? Like, what is,
I think so.
yeah.
Yeah.
What is that group of individuals?
Yeah. So
Yeah.
it's a group of. It's funny because we all have the title CEO, and from Bruce Dean, the founder of Blackbeard
Black
Diner,
Bear. Uh-huh.
he's in our group. My best friend Perry Thompson runs Hat Creek Construction in the group. None of us really see ourselves as CEOs. When that title is put next to our name, we're always like, who are they talking about? That's weird. I mean, technically it's correct, but
Yeah.
none of us went to school to be a CEO.
Right.
None of us, our goal in life was to be a CEO.
Mm-hmm.
And what's great about this organization is that those concepts you hear about, it's lonely at the top,
Yeah.
because who are you supposed to be vulnerable to?
I've actually had that conversation with Kimberly Johnson. I
Yes.
graduated leadership writing with her.
Yeah, oh,
and,
yeah.
and watched her
Yeah.
grow what she's grown. Yeah.
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 I like I said, I can't speak high enough
Yeah.
of Kimberly. Like I
But
said,
there's not a lot of people that get to this place and then can speak into it. And
Yeah.
it can feel lonely at
Right.
times.
Yeah, and two, when you do need to be authentic and vulnerable, because I would tell you most of the time I don't know the answers.
Mm-hmm.
I'll work hard to try and figure them out, or I'll fail enough times to get to the answer, right?
Yeah.
Because failure is definitely not an obstacle in my life.
Mm-hmm.
Why it's important to come down here and network with people like Investiges is because all those industries, like Paul Reuter, the Pace Engineering CEO, right, doesn't know much about agriculture, right? Nor does Kimberly, as an example, or Josh, or any of the other amazing people, right, that are in there. They all have completely different perspectives. And the greatest thing when you need to be vulnerable in counsel is, number one, not be around your peer group, right? Because I'm not going to spend a lot of time talking about a challenge that I have in front of my competitors.
You don't want to show your weak spot to a competitor.
Probably not the best thing.
Right.
Probably not the best to my customers, and probably not the best to my team.
Right.
Right? They're looking to now. There is a fine line there between being fake and being authentic, right? I think if you really are trying to develop leaders, and now I'm starting to tread on your ground because I know you're a big leadership person.
Bring it in.
But
yeah, I love this.
there's a big difference between trying to groom leaders, and if leaders think the leader they're trying to mimic or follow or being mentored by is perfect, how will they ever achieve that?
Right.
Because they're feeling the feelings you're feeling.
Right.
And if you're never expressing those feelings, they're like, wow, then maybe I'm not cut out to do this. Maybe I'm never going to be.
Or maybe they think they have to fake it.
Or fake it, right?
Right. Yeah.
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 And usually everybody around you knows you're faking it. You just have to be the one dude. Then everybody else goes, yeah, we knew.
Yeah. You just have to acknowledge
Right?
it.
Acknowledge it. And so Vistage is a wonderful spot to create a very fertile environment for vulnerability.
Right.
To where you then start going, okay, because that's such a diverse concept. You're like, well, how much is too much, right? It's not like I'm going to go to my 5 top foremen and just puke my guts out, right?
Right.
Probably wouldn't
I've
be
always
super
been
productive.
taught by our leadership, you don't vent down, you vent up.
Yes.
Right. So
Yeah.
you needed someone to vent up to, but when you're in the top, where do you vent up to?
Right.
And you found a group of individuals to do that. And you're exactly right. Unless the soil's tilled and all those things, you can't grow.
Yeah.
And so where are you supposed to do that if you can't get it out and work on it?
And I have experts in fertility, and I have experts in weed control, and I have experts in all these areas. But the reason I almost didn't join Vistage was I was like, well, what is a restaurant, a construction guy,
So
an engineering
much.
person, Jennifer Coy, Beauty Care Choices, awesome individual. I'm like, what could they possibly know about my challenges?
A lot.
Everything.
Right. Did they wonder the same thing about you, you wonder? Like, oh,
I don't know.
yeah.
I never thought to ask that question, but I almost didn't join because I was like, great people, amazing. I mean, the star-studded
Yeah, the
group,
stars,
it's kind of
yeah.
obvious, but I was like, yes, they're super talented, they're very successful, they're really cool, but I don't. And then you sit down and you realize that the large majority of your challenges are you. Right, and how you communicate
Yeah.
and navigate with people.
I was going to say, and people.
people,
And
right?
others.
And
Yeah.
others, right?
Yeah. Yes.
So then all of a sudden I sit there for like 2 months and everybody's talking about vulnerability. I'm going, yeah, I get vulnerability.
But I'm not going to be vulnerable in here. That's so real. And until you're
truth.
vulnerable, you can't grow.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But in the right places. That's what
It's
you're
got to
saying.
be the right environment, right? It's got to be the right
Correct.
circumstance. There's got to be trust established.
Yeah.
Which is something, like I said, that takes, trust is a simple thing. It takes time.
Yeah.
There's no magic
Yeah.
wand there.
Relational equity is hard to build. Like it's got to be, you have to trust it before you're ready. But even if you're in a room with rock star people, because even being in a room with rock star people doesn't necessarily mean that they honor the things you said, your farm and your marriage and your, people can go very far and not have those values.
Yes.
So then do you be vulnerable?
Right.
Not until you know both are true.
Yes.
Right? You've gone far, you've done this, but it's going to resonate with who I want to be in my business.
Yes.
Okay, now I can be vulnerable and let you guys help me.
Yep.
So how did you get invited to that group? That's so interesting to me.
Perry Thompson, my best
Okay.
friend,
He was
had
in
been
it.
involved for 3 or 4 years.
Yeah.
And was really attributing a lot of the success that he had in transition his business to the counsel and guidance and thought processes that were being shared in the group. And I'm like, well, I like I said, super close with him, see what's going on in his company. I'm like, I see it too. I see it in you.
Yeah.
And that as you know quite well, the majority of the time you've got to be willing to do what it is you're expecting to have happen with yourself or your company, right? So
Yes.
you've got to be willing to grow first, right?
Yeah.
And one of the things that was real obvious to me in the beginning is even though I was constantly challenged in agriculture, I wasn't personally growing. I went through a phase just all of a sudden 5 or 10 years go by and I'm not reading books. I'm not expanding my network. I'm not growing. I'm really hyper focused on my business and working hard, but
Nothing else is
not
growing.
moving forward in life. If you
Yeah.
understand where I'm going.
Yeah, I do.
And I think Perry kind of felt very similar that way. And watching him change really inspired me to go, okay, you know what? Whether Vistage is my answer or not is an unknown at that time, but I did know that it was time for me to get back onto a path of personal growth.
Yeah, I think there's these moments where we're like, oh, I'm at a stalemate. Where do I need to press in?
Yes.
What is it that I need to do? Do you think starting to do these videos is like a piece of that for you? I told your wife, and this will be on camera now,
Okay.
but I was like, is Travis going to run for office? What's he doing? What are we doing with these videos? What message is he trying to get out? And she's like, no, not that, Leah. And that's totally fine. But I was like, but something's spurred. Something's going on.
So my motivation for the videos came as a consequence of flying. So when I first started flying, another close personal friend of mine who's been a pilot, she's been a pilot a long time, knows me very well. We do a ton of business together in the Valley. They're a very significant family up in the area. She said to me, she goes, Trav, she goes, I'm glad you're getting your pilot's license, but I'm not sure you're cut out to be a pilot because I don't think you can be single-minded. And she meant it from her heart, right?
Yeah.
And I think she was right at the time. And so as I was getting my pilot's license, I'm like, yeah, maybe I was going to get my license, check the box, and
Yeah.
right?
Okay.
Somewhere during that process of becoming a pilot, one day it just dawned on me that in that cockpit, I had literally, for a couple of hours, everything blocked out and went away.
I don't know about
And
you,
I
but
found my
people,
inner peace.
people like you and I who are like, I'm going to try this and I do this and I learn that. That is very hard to find.
Yes, and I've tried, I mean,
Yeah.
like I said, when you read most of these success principle books, one of the many common denominators that's in there talks about taking time for yourself, right? Whatever that looks like, whether that's a meditation, whether that's exercise, whatever
We
it is.
somehow devalue that, but it's actually very, very important.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which is another cool thing when I got around some of these other guys in Vistage, because at first I'm like, well, vulnerability, that's a bunch of nonsense. I'm just telling you where I was at mentally then.
That's great.
I just got to be me. I was like, that's a bunch of pucky, right? You know. And then they're talking about, self-care. I'm like, that's a bunch of pucky, right? Right? Where's
I'm
the
right
real
there
meat
with
and
you.
potatoes? I'm embarrassed to say it, but it's true. It's where I was at mentally at that stage.
Yep.
And all of a sudden I'm in that cockpit and I'm like, it's been like 2 hours and I haven't thought about an issue, a problem. I've simply been single focused on this. And once I recognized that this was going to be a unintended consequence of becoming a pilot, that when I closed that cockpit door, that I found where I unsuccessfully for the last 40 years of my life been searching for. And I kind of was at the point in my life where I was like, maybe it's not me. Maybe I'm just going to have to keep that noise on in the back of my head all the time.
No way to shut it off.
You just can't shut it. It doesn't shut off.
Right.
Once that noise shut off because of the plane, then I went, you know what? This is the perfect time to be talking about unification, right? Which is another thing you guys stand for, which is why I wanted to be here as well. And putting out positive messaging.
Yeah. The world needs more positive
Yeah.
messaging.
And so that's what inspired me to do that. Ironically, I do have desires to be on the board of American Ag Credit,
Oh, I love that.
right? But that was not inspired by why I'm doing the videos. I was doing the videos and then realized that, you know what, it's time for me now to start giving back on a greater level to the industry that is giving me and my family for generations so much.
Yeah.
And so I do have a desire
And that
to pursue that.
legacy significance part of your stages,
Yeah.
right? That you get to. So in kind of closing us out today, because we've kind of come full circle very well. I think we did good.
Awesome.
What is one thing you'd want to share as a last word to an audience that, just about the relationship between the hub and out there and what we can be doing to listen? And I'm totally going to shamelessly plug, people should go follow Quarter Farms and be watching what Mark's talking about. But what would be your last thing you'd want to share?
I think very similar to what I had mentioned about Vistage in the sense that I'm like, what could all these different people have in common with me? I think that I've always had the perspective that even places like Redding, which is kind of a city relative to MacArthur,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Even though it's definitely a town, right? And a beautiful community town.
We think we're very, very big. We're pretty small actually, but yes.
But like I said, relative to Fall River, I always and my perception, and like I said, the reason I like to tell the Todd Franklin story is it's so funny when you have these perceptions and you're convinced that you have collected all the data, you've got all the information, you looked at it from every angle,
but that one last angle
is a game changer, right?
Yeah.
And so as I've been able to come down here and participate with Vistage and then start to hear the things like what Kimberly Johnson's working on or things like Lindsay Meyer works on with Turtle Bay and what Turtle Bay is about, right? And what that opportunities that offers people of every financial level, right?
Yeah.
It's free to walk across the coolest place in Northern California, right?
Yes.
The Sundial Bridge. It feels like a first time home buyer. Every time I walk, I'm like a little kid. I'm like,
This is so cool.
you can look through it. Like I couldn't look through it the last time. It's just
That's
literally
awesome.
every single time I'm like, this is so cool. And so what I've enjoyed about continuing to, and then Jordan having a business down here and starting to network with folks like you and Todd, that I realized that community does exist down here. I thought we had like somehow the monopoly on community.
Yeah.
And hanging out at the Redding Marketplace and watching relationships and people and the way people are interacting and making eye contact and all the things that are so important in life and really seeing people, not just like, or headphones or whatever, goes on in lots of aspects of life. that's the thing I think that's really inspired me to continue to want to figure out how to integrate, the outlying communities with our hub, right? Because the synergies here, the activities are here, the opportunities are here, and like I mentioned, like with Steve, those opportunities then eventually start to spread throughout the entire county,
Right.
where the kids at the Intermountain Junior Livestock Auction are benefiting from the generosity of a person from the hub because of relationships.
Yeah, and I think that all spurs back to Quarter Farm's whole, it sounds like your number one motto is relationship. And so that is why I wanted to highlight you today, because I think that relationship's so important. So thanks for coming down.
Thanks, Leah. This was fun.
This was fun.